Welcome to Connecting Minds, Strengthening Communities, a virtual series presented by Arizona Youth Partnership. Every month, we bring together experts, community leaders, and partners to discuss the critical issues impacting youth, families, and communities across Arizona. Through meaningful conversations, expert insights, and real-world solutions, we aim to empower parents, caregivers, and community members with the knowledge and tools to support the next generation. Thank you for joining us today. If you're watching live, we encourage you to engage in the conversation using the chat. If you can't stay for the entire session, don't worry. This recording will be available on our website and social media for you to watch anytime. Now let's dive into today's discussion.
Hi, and welcome to Connecting Minds, Strengthening Communities, an initiative of Arizona Youth Partnership. My name is Gauri Gladish, and I serve as the CEO at AZYP. At AZYP, our mission is to empower youth to harness their strengths to live healthy and purposeful lives. At AZYP, we know that every youth has inherent strengths that are just waiting to shine, and our team guides youth to discover and harness these qualities, giving them the tools, confidence, and authority to make decisions. As an organization, AZYP empowers youth to take charge of their future. We are at the end of Substance Use Prevention Month, so our conversation today will be between two experts in the field to discuss substance use trends among youth and to answer the questions that youth, parents, and community members are asking. AZYP's Community Impact Division works alongside communities to create safe and supportive environments that improve the quality of life for our youth. We have long-standing drug-free communities grants and we build community coalitions to address and support substance use prevention. We know we can't do this work without our community partners, and we are so grateful for them. In fact, AZYP's Copper Corridor Coalition is a nationally recognized blue ribbon coalition, and we are so proud of the work that's being done through that coalition. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to bring Julie Craig, AZYP's Director of Community Impact, to our Connecting Minds, Strengthening Communities conversation to lead this interview. Julie is one of 10 people selected out of a pool of over 170 applicants nationwide to join our National Partners in Prevention, which is a community of practice for adults who have demonstrated success and creativity in engaging youth in substance misuse prevention, using best practices and promising practices throughout the country. Julie, you've been in this work for well over 20 amazing years, and I'm so happy you're here to lead this conversation. Thank you so much for being here. You really are our AZYP expert in this field. And I would like to say also an expert throughout Arizona. And thank you so much for being here, and I'll pass it to you to start our interview.
Great. Thanks, Gauri. I would like to welcome our speaker today, Senior Master Sergeant Tommy Morga. He served with the Arizona National Guard Demand Reduction and Outreach, DDRO team for the past 7 years and has been a member of the United States Air Force for over 20 years. He brings a wealth of knowledge and experience gained throughout his military career to his role on DDRO, where he serves as both a national and local instructor. Senior Master Sergeant Morga is a team leader within DDRO and serves as a liaison to the Arizona High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, or HIDTA. Throughout the Arizona HIDTA Public Health and Public Safety Initiative, he works to advance prevention strategies and deliver vital resources across Arizona as well as nationwide. He draws on his experience to present a wide range of prevention programs for youth and adult audiences throughout the state and serves as an instructor for both national DDRO courses and local trainings offered through Arizona HIDTA. So, hi, Tommy. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, Julie. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate that.
You bet. We're so excited that you're bringing your experience into our conversation today. I always like to kind of start things off with our guests as to why is this work important for you?
Yeah, this is a job that is very unique, and it is something that kind of goes hand in hand with what the National Guard is all about. The National Guard has always been built from within and helping out our communities. And when I was first brought to this job, I was instantly intrigued. And I'm like, if I'm able to give back to my community, be engaged with our community, especially our youth, it was a no-brainer. And I continue to try to be as passionate as I possibly can with this work, being able to collaborate with the people that I am able to collaborate with, like AZYP, yourself, and a lot of others. And it's a job that is the people that are in this job are very passionate about this job. And that's what I absolutely love. And just connecting with the youth, getting in front of them, hearing their stories, because they have stories to tell. And I'll continue to do this work as long as I possibly can. And because one thing I am kind of, I'm not gonna say tired of, but one thing it's hard for me to do is to continue to talk to parents that have lost a loved one. So my focus is to always strive to try to get that number down as little as possible. All the way down to zero is obviously the goal. And so here we are. So that's kind of my why, is to really just kind of really give back to the community members that we have.
Great, thank you. And I love the passion that you have for this work as well. I've seen that
Thank you.
in the years that I've known and worked with you. So let's talk about some things about what our youth should know. So if a youth was to ask you, how can I handle peer pressure at Arizona school events or parties, especially now that e-cigarette use or vaping has decreased, but fentanyl-laced vaping is turning out to be a hidden trend, what would you say to that youth?
Yeah, that's tough, right? And so our youth nowadays they have a tough battle ahead of them because there's so many things out there. There's so many opportunities for them to engage into something that could definitely harm them, right? And so obviously, so building resiliency skills is probably gonna be the number one thing, right? What is your thing that is able to, when you are in a tough situation, when you are around your peers, it's hard to sometimes to say no, right? So what are those resiliency skills that our youth are building? And that's one thing our folks within DDRO and a lot of the collaborations, a lot of the, organizations and coalitions I work with are helping to really develop those skills. And so we're using promising practices, right, like Thrive and other programs and evidence-based practices to really get into those schools to teach them, hey, this is the reality of what's happening. This is where these are why we don't want you guys to do what you're doing, especially the e-cigarettes. Obviously, we know the long-term effects of those are very, very dangerous. And then, of course, the fentanyl-laced vapes, very low in those things, but they could still be the possibility, right? And that's the scary thing about it is everything is so hidden now. It's not the thing that's well known or easy to see, and it's the things that kids are taking without knowing about it or what's really the scary factor here. And that's what we try to teach these kids. Hey, if especially vapes, or especially obviously we don't want you to even vape, right? But we want you to be educated on the dangers of vaping. We want you to be educated on the dangers of fentanyl, no matter what, and give them as much tools as they possibly can for them to hopefully make the right decisions. And that's one thing we obviously struggle with a little bit in prevention, is that we don't really see that result, right? And so we're always like, I hope that person that I just talked to for about an hour is going to make the right decision when they are in that party, when they are with their group of friends, where they're passing a vape around. Say, no, no, I'm good. I just had a training from some random guy in the military. And that's what I'm really hoping for, is like that's the impact we can possibly make. And a lot of people I know and we're seeing that through data as well, that those kids are slowly going away from those substances, which is fantastic.
I agree. It's such a great thing when the schools let us bring these trainings in. The kids can ask us questions. We can practice those resiliency skills with them. Then they can go home and hopefully practice with their family and their friends. So I really appreciate
Mm.
all the work that you do around that. Let's talk a little bit about social media. How is social media driving this small but really stubborn uptick in prescription pill misuse among our youth in Arizona, despite overall use dropping, there's still some things out there. What are some red flags that our youth can avoid?
Oof. Social media in general. And that's about the easiest clear cut way I can put it. It's very dangerous, right? Social media, people can hide behind social media. They can be whoever they want to be on social media. And unfortunately, drug dealers know that. And that is the very scary part about it. They're using these platforms to get their product out there. They're using fake names, they're using fake IDs, they're using all sorts of different ways because they know that's where the kids are at. So we try to educate them on social media, the dangers of it, right? We try to educate our parents that are out there, our caregivers that are out there, because it's the emojis that are that are being indicated of certain different things, right? So we try to educate not only our youth of being aware of what they're doing on there, right? Like for instance, sharing your location, turn that off. The little things like that. Try to give little tips to the kids, because they may not realize like, hey, you could possibly easily be tracked, and you may one post in front of a store or an arcade or something, and they know exactly where you're at. And so that's the very dangerous part about it. So we try to educate them as much as possible about what is happening on there and the dangers of social media and how it's being used in a negative light, right? Social media is supposed to be fun, right? Share with your friends, your groups, your filters, all sorts of things. That's kind of how Snapchat especially kind of started out with, the funny dog emoji. Who hasn't seen that, right? But it's the dangers of it that people have figured out a way to now be able to sell drugs online, obviously illegally, and that's the very danger part about it, that we have to really educate our youth, but really our parents, because those are the ones that I love talking to parents about it, because they don't realize it. Like, wow, I didn't know that they can do that on social media, that Snapchat or different platforms. There are people that are doing that, and that's the scary part about it.
You're right. And it's just like what you were saying about the vape. You can't see what's in it. You don't know what's behind that social media app. I have to say, I have a 14-year-old granddaughter, and I'm so proud that my daughter, anytime she wants to talk about an app, she calls me. She's like, Mom, do you know anything about this app? So we sit and we talk about that. So
Yeah,
because it is really
that's great.
scary out there. And I remember when Snapchat first started, those little fun kind of, it was something fun that's been just totally changed and is
Absolutely.
really dangerous now. So thank you.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
so we're both aware of some of the data that comes from the Arizona Youth Survey every 2 years. And a lot of that data is now linking stress to some of the substance use issues that our youth are facing. So let's talk a little bit about some healthy coping strategies that our youth can use in Arizona. What are some things, like maybe some local sports? Maybe there is a positive app out there. What can our youth use to replace this and to do instead of using drugs to take care of that feeling of being overwhelmed?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question because stress for kids is a real thing. And that's one thing we try to definitely heighten when we do go talk to these kids. Like, yes, you do have to deal with stress in the schools. You have get good grades. You have expectations for sports. That's a big driver for a lot of kids to possibly make a bad decision, going forth because of who knows who's putting that pressure on. It could be the coaches, it could be the parents, it could be their peers, right? And so, but even though sports are a great outlet for stress as well, though, right? And so one thing we could definitely do is sports. There's a lot of community outreach programs that are in the within Phoenix area as well as the Tucson area. Matt Force actually up in Yavapai County puts a really good program on for youth for how to deal with stress. But again, goes back to that talking piece, building those resiliency skills, right? And then finding that thing. What is your outlet? What is your escape, right? Is it journaling? Is it video game? Is it listening to music? Is it physical fitness? Physical fitness has been proven to obviously derail that stress level, right? Bring those cortisol levels down. So that's one thing we've definitely tried to focus on to say, what is that? What's going to take that place of stress? And when you are stressed out, how do you deal with that stress? And so breathing techniques, right? The flight or fight mode that our bodies go into that sometimes youth have no idea how to handle. And so those are the tools we try to give them through our programs. And again, we're seeing it. But again, it's one of those things that even as adults, we sometimes don't know how to deal with those stresses of everyday life, right? And so our youth will come home and we'll see our parents stressed out, and then it's just a circle, right? And so that's why we have to, hey, this is what you can do, right? Your parents are they're gonna do what they do. They're gonna stress how they want to stress to deal with. Hopefully, they have coping skills as well. And so we try to get them through sports, through physical fitness, through journaling, art, right? All sorts of things. And again, I'll use my daughter for example. She's an amazing artist, and that was her thing. That was her way. Anytime she felt stressed out, she'd take her tablet out and she'd just create this amazing piece of art on her tablet. I'm like, where'd that come from? But it completely derails her from some of the thinkings that she has. So that's kind of the biggest thing is really finding what it is that you're passionate about and be an extension of that passion.
I love that, and I think art is such a great thing. I think my youngest daughter, it's always been reading for her. She can get lost
Yeah.
into a story, and but and another thing about the programming that we're able to bring into the schools, like we do strengthening families 10 to 14. There's a session in there where the adults are learning and exploring what kind of stress their teenagers are experiencing, but the teenagers are also learning what kind of stress the adults have. Because, like you said,
Love that.
they come home from school, they're stressed, their parents or caregivers are stressed, and it's just this kind of snowball effect. So,
Yep.
those resiliency skills definitely come in, and sometimes it's hard to recognize when you're overwhelmed as well, and especially I think with our teenagers they don't realize that they're having a response that's due to stress or something like that. So
Exactly. Yeah.
talking a little bit more about the Arizona Youth Survey in 2024, we did show that lifetime marijuana use is down, which is amazing. But how does just even occasional use with our youth still affect that brain development? And even more so, how does that affect their goals? Like if they're going to apply to college or a technical program, or even just get as they're getting ready to enter into the workforce?
Great question. And so that's something that a lot of kids don't realize that their brains are still developing until about the age of 25. And so that is something that they figure that they don't realize that. And obviously a lot of decision making that is happening within your body is done on the prefrontal cortex, right, of your brain. And that's what exactly what marijuana targets. And that's one thing we have to definitely educate them on. And that's another thing is it's a continuing education for our youth. Getting those prevention educations within our schools is so important because a lot of these things they have no idea. They don't talk about these things. They may talk about biology, but I guarantee they don't bring the substances into it. Right. And that's something that is a huge impact on it as well. As again, so obviously educating them on what marijuana does to your brain, how it affects your decision making, your reflexes, all sorts, your motivation. A lot of kids will think, oh, I'm going to take marijuana because it alleviates that stress like we just talked about. Right. Well, it actually kind of does the opposite. It's been proven that it actually does the opposite. And so that's the scary part about it, that it's more education, and it's the long-term effects of it, right? You're ruining the development of your brain as you're introducing substances to your brain, which will possibly affect your education and then your future plans. Shoot, there's schools and there's some sports programs that you have to take a urinalysis test in order to even be in that program, right? So that's something that you really have to, talk to these kids about is, hey, there's more impact that's happening if you do take this substance or you are introducing marijuana to your brain because XYZ, right? And you have to give them that why. Kids always want to know the why. Why you're telling me not to do drugs, okay? Well, why? Well, here's the why. And then you explain to them. And that's the most important part to really try to get that light bulb to go off in their brain to say, oh, that's why. Okay, I'm good. You know what I mean? And so that's
Mhm.
what we definitely try to focus on.
I love that. And you're spot on with they want to know what that why is. And right now, less than 50% of our kids really have an awareness of fentanyl and what fentanyl can do. So, where can youth in Arizona anonymously access help for substance use concerns?
Great. That's another one. I love giving resources to kiddos. So Teen Lifeline is probably one of the big things that they can reach out to it's an anonymous text line. They can actually text with another peer. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head as far as the actual phone numbers itself. I apologize, but they can go to teenlifeline.org in order to find those. There's actually a different number for Phoenix and for Tucson. So definitely try to figure the number for your local area. Obviously in 988, I don't know how well 988 is actually pushed out, but that's another one that people can utilize just in case, right? It's the National Suicide Crisis Lifeline. So there's obviously that the Governor's Office Youth, Faith, and Family has a really good prevention toolkit out there to educate, right? And to make sure that is there's the pieces are there for the education piece. And one thing one of the first things, anytime I go to a school and I'm introducing fentanyl or talking about fentanyl awareness, things like that, I always have everybody, hey, raise your hand. Who has heard of the term fentanyl? This the word. And from when I started, well, really getting into schools heavily about 6, 7 years ago to where I'm at now. When I first started, it was maybe 1 to 2 kids raise their hand. A lot more kids are finally having those conversations and actually getting in front of somebody. And then my next question is, how many of you are talking to your parents about it? Or have your parents talked to you about it? Because it's not so much just because they may say, "Yep, I heard it on the news." But no, that's all I've heard, right? Well, it's how many kids have actually talked to a parent about fentanyl, the dangers of fentanyl. So that's another piece we definitely try to encourage, right? Encourage those conversations with our parents. But then another thing is with the Arizona opioid assistance referral line. It's called the OR line. Great resources for people to utilize. So definitely there's a lot of different resources out there for kids to use, but Teen Lifeline is a huge one because again, they may be embarrassed and they're like, I don't want anybody to know that I'm struggling with this situation. And that's where they can really come into play.
Yeah, it's hard to have this face-to-face conversation when you're a teen nowadays.
Very.
And I think that you can text help to 471-471, and that'll kind of start that conversation. And I know if it's an afternoon, I think I want to say from like 3 to 9, I think is when they actually have other peers that respond to them. So it's really nice to be able to talk to someone that's your same age and going through some of the same stresses and things that you are. 988 is also just another amazing resource for them. And that is one good thing, maybe about social media and stuff. You can Google what's the best line for me to call or
Absolutely.
something.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I used to have to carry a phone book around, so we don't have to do that anymore, which is really
Yellow
great.
pages and white
So,
pages, Julie. I'm with
yeah,
that. Yes.
yeah, I'm that old.
Like
So,
that.
what steps can Arizona parents take if they spot a social media link that they think might be going to a substance or something that they're like, man, I'm kind of concerned about this on my child's phone.
So that's a hard one, but I would say the biggest thing is you can actually report it. You can take a screenshot of it. And that's one thing that I definitely highly encourage, especially when I do social media, the dangers of social media presentation that we have. And it kind of covers a lot of things, mostly all things Snapchat, of how to, report a post or a story or something like that. And you're able to get that and report it to Snapchat, and hopefully they can handle it from there. It's really the only thing they can do as far as when it comes to social media is basically report those posts. That's really the hard thing about that. I have talked to a lot of detectives actually about that and say, hey, what can parents do? What can kids do? And that's their number one thing is say they can report it. Definitely take a picture with another phone because if you screenshot something on Snapchat, that other person might get
Hmm.
a notification saying that
Hmm.
this person screenshotted your post, right? The next thing you know, you're putting yourself in danger,
Hmm.
right? So that's the one thing we try to do is tell the parents, tell the kids, hey, grab another phone, take a screenshot of that phone, and then you can report it from there. Obviously, if it's depending on the danger of it, obviously you could do a police report on it, right? You definitely want to at least try to get something going on that for sure, especially if there's a danger to your life or anybody, family, anything like that. Absolutely. But then hopefully the other platform, whatever it may be, will hopefully do something about that, right? Remove that account, things like that. They can do those things. But it's a struggle. So that's why social media is such a scary thing because it is so just out there. There's so many things. There's so many people on there. I mean, I forget last time I looked how many users are in the US for Snapchat, but it was over like 300, close to 400 million
Yeah,
just US users. And it would that's a lot of people. That's a lot of
yeah.
people.
Well, and I think what you said before is that conversation. Parents
Hmm.
need to talk with their kids. We need to look at their phones and see what kind of apps they have. And I know for me, I ask them, what does that do? because, I don't know, and they can usually tell you those kinds of things. So, and I think too, it shows that you're supporting your youth. A lot of parents will think, oh, they're going to think I'm spying on them. But I think kids are like, no, my parents are interested in me and care about me. And so having those conversations are really important.
Very
So
important.
I know Arizona Haida has a lot of amazing resources. Where can urban or rural Arizona families, how can they tap into some of the resources that Haida has for intervention?
So yeah, easily go to our website, arizonahida.org, or azhida.org, I apologize. And there's a link on there that says e-resources under prevention. And we have so many PowerPoint presentations with notes in there. It's actually called the 360 program. And there's RX 360, there's vaping 360, marijuana 360, alcohol. There's so many presentations in there, and just also a lot of links as well for people for information. Definitely highly recommend people to go on there and check it out. You can honestly localize it as well. I know a lot of coalitions go on there to use those presentations. What we do every couple of years, we actually take the AYS. I know, the Arizona Youth Survey, something me and you we probably embed ourselves in that stuff, especially every 2 years when new data comes out. We take that data and we update those presentations every 2 years, right? As soon as we get new data, boom. So it is actually per county, right? We have a presentation for every single county in there because we take the AYS data from that county and implement it into those resources that we have on the website. So again, it's good. We have English and Spanish as well. We're always trying to get more. I'm always open for new ideas on there, some more information, more resources on there as well. But we try to give people so much information. That's kind of what we are. We're kind of a really good hub of information for the state. And that's really kind of what HIDA definitely try to focus on, is be that middle person for agencies, coalitions, parents, caregivers, anybody in between, to really help them get some of their information out there. Obviously, SACLA-Z toolkit as well, the Substance Awareness Coalition Leaders of Arizona, has a really good toolkit that we utilize a lot as well. And so there's so many different resources out there that people can hopefully reach out to folks like you, right, at your coalitions. I mean, our coalitions are fabulous people. So those are the rock stars that I always try to rely on. Who's my champion out there? I'm always trying to focus on who's that person in that area. Ooh, I know I'm gonna reach out to that person and say, hey, what are you guys doing? What do you guys have? Right? Information sharing is so important in this business because we're all here to do one thing, right? We're all here to save lives. So that's one thing we definitely try to get on, rural or urban. We want to focus on getting every single person the same education. If it's Narcan training, if it's Snapchat training, if it's fentanyl awareness, whatever it is, we have the capacity, luckily through the Arizona HIDA as well as DDRO, to get those people out there. So if you ever need anything like that, definitely try to reach out to us and we'll try to get as many people out there as possible.
It's so helpful to have all of that information in one location. I
Yeah.
know I've used it so much throughout my career. And even as a parent, to be able to go on and actually find something that's factual. There's so much misinformation that's circulated out there. It's hard to sift between what's the truth, what's not, what's actually happening in my local area. And so to be able to go to like the HIDA website to have all of that centralized right there, or even to go to the SACLA-Z one to have all of that information right there. And the fact that it's updated with current information is just amazing. And sometimes it's really hard to find that data. And that's the best way to be able to talk to a youth, I think, is to say, this is the actual fact. This
Yes.
isn't just something I believe or I feel, but here's the actual numbers. And that's when they're really going to start to listen. So we really appreciate all of the work that you guys put into that.
Thank you.
And kind of talking about that, how can Arizona schools and other youth organizations collaborate with HIDA to roll out some trainings that, kind of target e-cigarette or vaping and increasing that information on fentanyl and other opioids?
Yeah. So another big thing about Arizona HIDA is we have a lot of people that know a lot of people, and we love to collaborate. We love to network here at Arizona HIDA and DDRO. And one thing that I was pushing really hard a few years ago on is the peer-to-peer concept, right? And I came across an organization from the Tempe Union High School called the No Second Chance. And they have a youth program, and then we partner with them to talk about the dangers of fentanyl. There's a lot of, they put so many really good PSAs out there that, because we noticed is that kids want to hear from kids. Right. And so that is something that like I saw early on. I'm like, how do we get kids involved in this? Right. And since then, I've met so many kids along the ways, because a lot of coalitions have a youth sector that have absolute rock stars in their coalitions. And so that's one thing that we definitely want to always try to collaborate with, is that piece. We've done a lot of collaboration with ADHS, with Access, with the Mayo Clinic, actually, about the Stop It program as well. That's one thing Arizona HIDA has done a really good job in, is build the Stop It, try to help build the Stop It program coming up. So I'm not sure how many people have heard about that one, but that is actually where we've actually worked really, really hard to get Narcan into schools, or I should say, yeah, or naloxone, right? So Narcan's the brand name, naloxone is the active ingredient, in case anybody was wondering. And so, the Kleenex tissue thing. And
Mhm.
but it's a really good program because of what it is. It gets schools flooded with Narcan to where, just in case it's there, right? We're hoping no one never has to use it. That's the whole idea behind Narcan. But hopefully that they are able to, it's there just in case, right? And there's through that, there's also, we have these new things that these storage boxes, kind of like a first aid kit that use like the AED you see on walls, right? At
Mhm.
malls and airports and schools. Well, we actually are now getting those out there to schools where it's literally just like a lockbox, but you can
Mhm.
really open it up and Narcan's in it. So we're really pushing those out there as well. So again, collaboration with different organizations, because like I said earlier during my why, is there's a lot of people that really care about this state and about our youth. And that's one thing we try to want to do, is get as much stuff, education, Narcan availability, whatever the case may be, out there as much as possible.
I totally agree. And it can happen anywhere at any time to
That's the
anyone.
scary part about it,
And
Jamie.
we've been lucky
Absolutely.
enough to have a program that in Gila County, we've been putting out those Narcan kits as well, or naloxone kits as well.
Awesome.
And they even come with like a little CPR mask on there. So if people need to, they can do CPR on them. I've been teaching CPR since I was 16, and
Yeah.
it's so important to be able to save someone's life. So I love that you guys are doing that statewide for us. Um, what key metrics from that Arizona Youth Survey, something along the lines of maybe it's 30-day use rates that are dropping, but what metrics from there should Arizona communities really kind of monitor to see the impact of all the programming that we're doing?
Yeah, so as you know, and hopefully some other people can get in there as well to see the AYS data. And you're able to, the big thing is you have your 30-day use, which is kind of like your recent use, and then you have your lifetime use, right? So we're seeing different trends and on different substances. And the AYS has so much information on there. So I highly recommend anybody that sees this to get in there. It's the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission, right? You can put that, you can put AYS in Google, AYS, Arizona Youth Survey, hit enter. It should be the top one that you can click on it. And you can go
Mhm.
to your county, you can go to so many different things. They put so much work into that AYS. I wish it was a requirement for schools to take, but again, I can't push that. That's just Tommy thinking. But a few metrics that basically what you were asking, perception of risk is a huge one, right? You definitely want to see what is that perception of risk for kids that are taking that. And another one that kids may not realize, but when you speak to kids, like everybody's doing it, right? That's the conversation you may get from the kids. Oh yeah, everybody at our school does vaping. Everybody smokes weed. Guess what? Not everybody does. The data shows that. And right, so parent and disapproval is actually one of the top metrics data points in the AYS that people don't realize. Like kids don't want to do it because they don't want to upset their parents. This is flat out what it is. They just don't want to upset their parents. And so that's a huge indicator. So you can see that, right? So again, it goes back to what same thing we've been saying this whole time. Talk early and talk often. Parents talk to those kids about this stuff. Another one you can monitor, right? Different mental health indicators that are in there that you can actually see that as well. Ease of access, huge one, right? So where are they getting it from? They're getting it from their friends. Are they going in and buying it? Is there an area they may know a store that is selling to underage kids? And so there's a lot of coalitions in the state will actually do community scans. And within those community scans, they can see who's selling these substances, especially vapes and alcohol, illegally to kids. So AYS will tell us a lot of that data. We can get in there and say, okay, this is where we need to focus on, right? Here's our last 30-day use, perception of harm, all those different metrics in there we can focus on. But again, like I mentioned, perception of risk as well as disapproval for our parents, get in there and see those numbers. And if people may not know, it's actually 8th, 10th, and 12th graders that are being surveyed through this AYS. And they're kind of being tracked and followed, I guess, through that to see the changes as the kids get older, right? They're trying new things. They just got introduced to high school. Well, now, here we go. But then maybe they got smart. So it's like, what is changing? That's why I love every couple of years AYS comes out. It's like Christmas time for me because I'm like, all right, let's get in there. Let's open up that data and let's see what we got. And so I'm definitely pushing it. So I thank you for all the AYS questions because I love pushing AYS stuff.
Well, and that data is so important, and our CEO Gory is really all about the data, kind of as you and I are. And I know a lot of parents are really surprised that they are one of the biggest protective factors for their youth, because you're right, they don't want to disappoint their parents. That schools are a protective factor, having pro-social friends and those other activities that we were talking about earlier are protective factors for our kids. So it's so important to see that, and it's nice when you can track and see the difference that it's making. And I know for years I've heard people say, "Oh, everybody's doing it," but the data says no, they're not. 7 out of 10 kids aren't doing it, and
Right.
that's amazing. And that's because our parents are doing a good job. Our parents are talking to them, so we spend a lot of time talking about the negative side. We need to make sure we're celebrating those wins that are we are talking to our kids. Our kids aren't using, in certain areas that are doing really well. So thank you for bringing all that up.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you for saying celebrating wins. I love that because that's one thing I definitely push is celebrating wins. And so because in this business, we need those wins, right? In prevention, we need those wins and little things like that, like you just mentioned, is perfect. So thank you for actually mentioning that.
yeah, and our kids need that too, because I
Yes.
mean, I know I spent a lot of time as a parent. Hey, you didn't clean your room. Hey, you didn't pick up after the dog. Hey, you didn't do this. And but I didn't spend a whole lot of time saying, "Oh my gosh, you did this so well." And so that can really make a difference in our youth's lives as well.
Yep. Yep.
So thank
Words
you
of
for that.
affirmation go
So,
a long way.
Tommy, this has been such an amazing conversation. I'm going to kick it back to Gory to see if there's any questions that she wants to follow up with, and really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. And I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you, Julie. I really appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for asking me to do this. I was honored. And hopefully we can create change together, right? That's what we're definitely trying to always do. So I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for leading this great conversation. Mr. Morga, thank you so much for your time. You were saying, first of all, you both had me at the data. So yes, as Julie said, like
Big data person.
totally. But also, you said something at the end about celebrating the wins. And in this prevention work, we have to. We
Yeah.
have to have that motivation to keep doing what we're doing, knowing that it's working. We're not going to take leaps and bounds overnight, and we know that, but like celebrating those wins, updating youth, updating parents, updating websites about the work that we're doing is actually having an impact to create safer communities, safer youth. So yes, I just thank you for saying that. I took some notes down while you were talking. You mentioned Narcan education, and thank you for expanding on some of the additional work that you've been doing in Arizona communities. It was about a year ago. I went to a summit down here in Southern Arizona, and in my like little goodie bag, I got some Narcan.
Mhm.
And I think my son had just turned 10 at the time, and he's going through my little goodie bag, and he's like, "Oh, Narcan." We had, as a family, just gone through our Strengthening Families program, and we had talked about fentanyl and how Narcan can be used to reverse an overdose.
Right.
And he said something, and I immediately called Julie. He said, "Oh, you got Narcan. That's really cool. This will save lives."
Wow.
And I was like, yes,
Yeah.
parent win, parent win. Which was
Yeah.
great because I went home and I showed my spouse, I was like, yeah, this is all the stuff I got. And my spouse was like, oh, Narcan. It was almost like, do we want to have this in the house? And I was like, yes. So teaching the younger, teaching our youth that this is really a life-saving tool is so important. So I just wanted to mention that as like, celebrating those wins.
Celebrate, yeah, take that stigma away from what Narcan is, right? It's the
Right.
benefits of it. It's the stigma behind it that I'm always trying to break that stigma.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that youth, when they learn the education, they can go out and teach their caregiver, their parent. Like it's
There you
not a
go.
scary thing. It's actually something that could help someone's life. Um,
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask more about some of the websites that you mentioned. You mentioned a ton of great resources that parents and youth can get onto, the HIDA website, SACLS website, Arizona Youth Survey. You mentioned Teen Lifeline, and I just wanted to give those numbers because I think those are just so important. So for Southern Arizona, it's 520-327-8336. And for the state is 602-248-83. Nope, I wrote that one down. No, yes, 248-8336. We'll have to update that. I might have written it down wrong.
It's okay. Yeah, that's why I was like, I'm gonna go into tlifeline.org and
Yeah,
I'll
yes.
but no, thank you for looking those up.
Yes, I hope we got them right. But 988, Julie mentioned that. But
Yeah.
are there any other, I know we're so focused on, our phones, apps. Are there any apps or other websites or other resources that you could recommend to parents, caregivers, to youth to be updated on these trends that are
Um,
credible?
I was trying to actually think about actually, I'm actually looking in my office right now. I have so many different resources in here, but in different flyers. But again, the SACLZ website is such a good one because like we said, like Julie mentioned earlier, everything's in one location, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? You don't have to reinvent the circle, as far as where to get the information.
Yeah.
The DEA actually has a really good resource. One pill can kill, so you can look that up as well. That's probably a really good. What you can actually do is get they have, and I'll show you right here, a little different emoji, what each emoji means, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned about the social media piece I mentioned earlier. Get on there and look up the DEA's one pill can
Yeah.
kill campaign that they have and really find out, okay, well, what does this mean? What does this little emoji mean? And then a
Mm-hmm.
lot of those, they update that as well. So like, saying up to date information is what our parents want. And
Yeah.
so that's probably another big thing that I go to a lot as well. Um, if you're a data person, I don't know about how many of the kids do, but parents, um, Arizona Department of Health Services has a very good opioid dashboard that I go onto a lot as well, because then you can look up all sorts of information on the DHS website as well. So I would definitely highly recommend going on
Okay.
there. And then Department of Education, if you want to know more about the Stop It program, any school out there that sees this, you can go on the Department of Education's Stop It
Okay.
and look on there, see how to order Narcan, how to order the storage boxes. Again, because we want to just flood the state with as much information as we possibly can. I'm all about in prevention, speaking the same language, right? And so when I say speaking the same language is
Mm-hmm.
sometimes our organizations like to maybe not do their own thing, but because everybody's doing amazing work. But I love when the youth are hearing the same message from people,
Yeah.
it goes far, right? Because it might be like, oh, well, this organization told me one thing, and this organization, this person told me another thing. So speaking the same language is so important in prevention to really get that point across to our youth and to our caregivers, because they're going to be flooded with stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
there's like, I have so much information, I don't know what to do with it. So
Mm-hmm.
we make it easy for them. Again, some of those websites that we mentioned is just it's out there. And again, anybody can always reach out to me. I'm happy to give as much information as possible. And so yeah, just trying to help as much as possible.
Appreciate it. And yes, speaking the same language. Thank you for mentioning that. I think that, my takeaway as CEO at AZYP, like, yes, we need to start doing that. And we need to continue doing that in our different, prevention areas. Make sure we're speaking the same language that other experts are speaking, because we don't want to
Yeah.
make it confusing. We want to make it accessible. We want to make it easy to understand and to, you know, I say implement, and that's one of those words.
Yeah, no, you're exactly
Yeah.
right. We want to make it accessible. We want the information. We don't need to hide information when it comes to prevention, right?
Right.
We want to get that information out there and hear from different people from all walks of life, law enforcement, prevention specialists, treatment specialists, because we're all here for the same concept. And so that's one thing I definitely want to try to push more later on this in the year, that I got some projects coming up that hopefully to really hone in on that, to really get all of us focusing and speaking that same language.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Morga. We know that you have a very busy schedule. You have a lot going on, but we are so honored to have your time. You have given us such important insight, really tangible information with the data and the education and information about substance use prevention and how to really support our youth in that area. And we're just so appreciative of your time with us today. So thank you. And also thank you, Julie. It was fantastic having your expertise as well in the conversation. So this wraps up today's Connecting Minds and Strengthening Communities. And I hope everyone will join us next month for National Runaway Prevention Month, as we discuss showing kindness and giving support to youth experiencing homelessness. As always, I encourage you to visit our website, www.azyp.org, to check out the great impactful work we're doing throughout the state. And if you feel moved, you can always hit that donate button to show your support for our mission. If you're celebrating Halloween tonight, I hope you have a safe and fun time. And to everyone, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.